and then you release it out to the world.
Yeah.
It's like, go, good luck, prosper if you can. And so it's always nice to hear that they have had an impact on some people's lives.
It really had, yeah. I think I wouldn't be who I am really. Movie-wise, I own 4 cinemas and I'm a film critic. So it really had a deep impact on me on my love for movies. Yeah, I would say.
Wow! So you have four theaters?
Yeah, it's a small theater chain in my country. Yeah.
Cool. How's the movie business there now?
Oh yeah, it's picking up actually in Europe. In Slovenia, it's actually picking up. Yeah.
No, good.
No, enough about me. How did you discover this fascinating world of VR and decided that you yourself want to be a part of it with your own with your own studio?
Well, back in the early 80s, I still remember when I saw my very first piece of computer animation, and I was just blown away by it. Like, I had no idea how it was done. You know, I was looking, it's like, that's not stop motion. It's not drawn. How is this possible? And then, you know, I quickly found out, oh, well, they're using computers now to do this kind of thing. And it just like lit a fire, you know, and just got me really excited about computer animation. And so I started, you know, doing whatever I could to learn more about it, and taking Fortran classes back in college, and then it became like the next 35 years of my life. And there was this great energy back then where only people who were really excited about computer animation were involved. Wasn't a way to make a lot of money, you know, or even make a movie or anything else. It was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. How do we do more of it? And then I did that for many years and made the films that I made. And it started to feel a little bit like it was becoming like, you know, a pattern, and didn't feel like I was... I don't know, I just needed something else, you know, to re-spark that fire. And so I left film, but I had no idea what I was going to do. I wouldn't say I left film, but I left what I was doing, and I left DreamWorks, and I was working on like art installation projects and anything, you know, that struck me. And a friend of mine introduced me to Maureen Fan, who's now my partner at Baobab. And she was a vice president at Zynga at the time, but told me she'd always wanted to start an animation company, but knew that she couldn't compete with Disney or anybody. But this new thing, VR, and the technological disruption that it brings could maybe give her a head start. And so she said, I've got a VR headset right here. Put it on me, and it was something simple, you know. This was 3.5, 4 years ago. It was like, you know, you're underwater and fish are swimming around, and I was just blown away. You know, it's like, oh my God, this is so incredible. And it kind of gave me the same feeling I had way back in the 80s when I saw computer animation. It's like, this is different, it's new, it's not a movie, it's like, you know, yeah, I want to get involved. So we started that company, and now, you know, we're still really small. We've got about 25 people at Baobab Studios, and we're not trying to grow right now. We're trying to stay small and keep our costs low because there's no market right now. Yeah. But what there is the same kind of passion that people had back in the 80s that I worked with. You know, people are in VR and people are working at Baobab because they love it. And they're just so excited about what it could become. And so I've kind of recaptured sort of that spirit of the early part of my career. And so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. What do you think is the ideal distribution for films like The Crow, The Legend? Do you see cinema still involved in the distribution, or?
Well, of course there are location-based VR theaters now, and having various degrees of success. And so that's certainly one way. Of course, anybody that owns a headset will be able to download it and look at it that way too. And we just try to push, and will be pushing Crow into as many different opportunities for people to see it as they can. Because the most important thing right now is that people see it. It's not that we have no plans right now to sell it or make any money from it. VR right now just needs to be discovered by people, So for us, it's about as many eyeballs as we can. So we'll be trying to put it out onto as many different platforms as we can. I'm sure that all of our other pieces, we even have like on YouTube 360, which is not a great way, obviously, to watch VR. But if it's the only way you have to see what kind of content is there or what's happening in VR, then it's better than people not seeing it at all. So it's right now it's all about eyeballs and trying to get people excited about what VR is today and what the potential is. So we're trying.
Are there really main difference between making classic animation like computer animation and a VR animation like The Crow?
Well, the biggest difference is that VR and film are not just different versions of the same thing.
Yeah.
They're two different, distinct mediums. And so the way that you think about making VR is very different than the way you think about making a movie. On some level, it's simple things like if you're actually able to walk around in VR, then you're going to be looking at a character from all angles. In a traditional film, the animator only has to animate to the camera. And if you could sneak a camera around and look at the character from the side, they might be off balance or distorted, but it doesn't matter because nobody can see from that angle. But in VR, possibly they can. So you have to pay attention. It's just kind of a technical thing. But the real challenges are in how you think about creating the piece as a whole. Because obviously if it's a movie, there's a rectangle, everybody's looking at it, and the director can put whatever they want to in that rectangle and it's going to get seen, right? But in VR, obviously you can look wherever you want to look. So it's just a different kind of experience. So the question becomes, what does it even mean to be a director in VR? And it's just not the same. For me, there's some things that are always going to be the same. And that's that we want to have great stories. We want to have really compelling characters that audiences can connect with and empathize with. And that's true for film and books and plays and spoken word. That's just true for great storytelling, and that's not going to go away. That's been around for thousands of years. Our brains are hardwired for great stories, and so I kind of use that as sort of our foundation, and then we wander off into the dark, undiscovered country of VR to figure out what are the tools that we haven't yet to discover that are going to allow us to tell that story. It kind of reminds me of, those guys in Antarctica, like if they need to go out in a blizzard, they'll like tie a rope to like their tent or whatever, and then they like go out in the blizzard searching for something, and then and then they always find their way back. It's like the story is the thing that we're always attached to. It doesn't help to have a gee whiz moment or a hey look at the technology moment if it's not serving the story. It just becomes a moment and then it's gone and then it has no meaning. So everything that we do just has to serve that story and the storytelling and the characters.
And the last question, you talked a bit about it already. What would you say is the future, or would you predict is the future for VR and also your own film studio?
Well, I can't really predict what the future of VR will be in general, except I imagine it will be many, many different things.
Yeah.
Entertainment, manufacturing, education, healthcare, real estate. I mean, the list goes on and on. And inside that niche of entertainment, it will be very many different things. But what we're focused on is what I've touched on a little bit already, which is, well, here's the thing. In Invasion, I don't know if you saw our very first
I didn't
piece.
saw it, but I read about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a very simple thing where you're out on a frozen lake and a bunny spots you and hops over and looks you in the eye. And even if you move around, the bunny maintains eye contact, turning her head to follow you. And then she seems to acknowledge that you're there, and she's excited that you're there, and she starts to like jump around in a cute, playful way, and like kind of like, let's play together, and really simple, cute. It seems like a no-brainer kind of, but for us, we had no conception of how audiences would respond to that. But then we'd take out for testing. We'd seen it 100 times, 1,000 times. We were just like, whatever, it's just even going to work. And then we take it out for testing, and like people are like talking to the bunny and laughing with it and waving at it and trying to touch it and copying its actions. And it's like, I'm just watching this happen over and over again, thinking, this does not happen in a movie, It just is not the same thing. And so this has sort of led us at Baobab to think a lot about the value of VR in terms of putting the viewer inside a world and really feeling like they're there. It's immersive. And then having other characters acknowledge that the viewer exists in their world, and that the fact that the viewer exists in their world really matters to them in some way. And that's the beginning of a relationship. Like, you're here, I'm here, and it means something to me. It may mean I'm happy, I'm sad, I want to eat you, I'm going to run away, but it means something. And then you can take that beginnings of that relationship, using a lot of the ways that we all naturally communicate with each other, many of them nonverbal, and start to create these bonds that you can never really do in a film, at least not in the same way. And take the viewer to a place, because it's interactive, where they can make decisions, choices, to act that are related directly to the relationship that they have with the character. So it's a long-winded answer, but the point is that, like, if I'm just playing a game or something, I often get to a point where I'm like, okay, what do the guys that made this game expect me to do now, right? And so it would be easy even in a VR story to like have that headset on and go, okay, what do the people that made this world want me to do right now? They want me to push the red button, or they want me to push the blue button? What do they want? And I'm going to do what they want, or I'm going to do what they don't want. But instead, if we can really put the viewer inside that world to the point where they really feel like there's something living next to them, there's something that has a brain, there's something that has a soul, that, of course, they know it doesn't, but there's all these cues, many of them subconscious, supporting this idea that there is a true relationship there. Then the decisions that they're making to act and the actions that they're taking are based upon the connection that they have with that character. And that's where we can make the viewer really be able to believe that they matter and that they are a real participant in this
part of it.
Real story that's flowing around, and it becomes much like real life. Not real life, but much like real life. And I think can be a really profound experience. It brings out people's, not just their empathy, but their compassion, which is empathy in action. And can potentially tell really deeply moving stories that affect people on a real personal level because it's their story too.
Thank you. I have to say that I enjoyed Crow the Legend. It was amazing. 20 minutes went by like this.
Oh.
And when the logo, the film studio logo come on I was like, oh, I could hang at least half an hour more with the crow and his friends.
Oh, that's
really
great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice because if an experience is working, you stop thinking about the clock.
Yeah, I didn't. It was like this. I was, oh, it's over. And now I have I will ask you politely for an. I told you about that I saw the Antz. Was my first visit, and after I saw it, I was so hyped about it that my father had to go to the movie theater local, and politely asked the one of the crew members if they could give him anything about Antz or a poster or anything, and they gave them those two lobby photos.
Oh,
they're
that's
like
so cool.
20 years old, around 20 years. And
That's
if
great.
you wouldn't mind, I would ask you to sign them.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I have a pen with me. So.
Oh, that's cool. I don't have these. Do you want me to sign them to you, or just?
It would be
so
amazing
let me see
for me. Yeah.
Is it
Matej? This.
Matej?
And somewhere here when it's not that dark.
Okay,
yeah,
got it. Yeah. I want to get it. Make sure I get it right.
Okay,
I hate to
yeah.
misspell it. Matej.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. My heart is like bouncing.
This movie's